Welcome to the Saint Show, where we celebrate the incredible world of service animals and their handlers. We're your
Yep.
hosts, Chief and Friz,
How you
and
doing?
we're here to inform, educate, and inspire others. Saint stands for Service Animal Information Network Team, and our mission is to build a community that supports, empowers, and uplifts service members and their loyal companions. Each week, we'll dive deep into the lives of service animals and the people they serve. From breaking down laws and rules to sharing training tips and even interviewing handlers, but more importantly, getting to know some of these amazing service animals. And we've met so many along the way. In today's episode, we're introducing you to Saint, who we are, what we stand for, and what you can expect from this show. So grab your coffee, settle in, and we'll get started. We do plan to do episodes every 2 weeks for now. But with that said, I would like to introduce Friz. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I got my coffee going, and I'm pumped up. I just don't hear enough talk about service animals, and having one myself, it was important for me to be informed and educated on the rules and regulations and what I'm allowed to do and not to do, because I've run into so many places where they weren't informed and asked me to take the animal out or charged me a deposit for it, and that really stresses me out and kinda defeats the purpose of having the animal in the first place. So, for me, that's kind of what I'm really excited to get out there. How about you?
Yeah, exactly. Ever since I realized what a service dog was, I was always intrigued with them. When I got out of the military, people were like, "Why don't you get a service dog?" And I was always like, I don't deserve a service dog. I don't have a physical disability, you know, that you can see. So it's always been in my mind about service dogs. How do people take care of their service dogs? Is there somewhere they go and get their dog tuned up like you do your car? When you get your car, a maintenance program or something? Well, then when I got my own service dog, Bean, the first problem I ran into was budgeting. I wasn't budgeted at the moment for her. And it caused a little bit of stress in my life trying to find the food and everything else. And that started me thinking, I wonder if there's any kind of help out there for service dogs, service animals. There's only two things that are service animals, and it's a dog and a mini horse, but that's a different subject. So the dog, they're so important. People that I've been talking with since I've had her have said they noticed a noticeable improvement in my uh, well-being. Trying to use the right words and not sound like I'm a rube, but she's really made a big difference. And if she's made this much of a difference in my life, I can't imagine how much of a difference that they make in somebody else's life, especially somebody who has like limited mobility. You're a diabetic, you get migraines, seizures. These are things you can't really see, but the dog can sense, the dog can smell. That's why when you have a service dog and it's a diabetic service dog, they're definitely allowed to ride in the top of the cart where the children are. So the dog can smell your breath. That's how the dog picks up on your
Yeah,
blood
those
sugar.
and those dogs are amazing. That's something that I wasn't even aware of until even more recently, was the dogs that are trained to sense the low or even the high blood sugars for diabetic. And
Yeah.
that's a real thing, man. But something I did wanna touch on you covered there was you didn't think you needed one, and that's something that so many people have told me when I'm on the road and I'm out and about or at a conference, and I myself thought that because um, I wasn't a spec war guy. I know somebody's worse than me. Somebody else, might need one more than I do. And then I got Striker, and I realized that these animals do so much more than just their job. And I kind of want to get some of that information out there through stories. But thank you for doing this. And can you kind of just tell us about Saint, kind of the mission of what Service Animal Information Network team is all about?
Well, it for me, it started because I didn't have enough money to make sure I was going to be able to feed this picky little dog. And I thought, man, wouldn't it be nice if there was somebody out there that helps service members in time of need and crisis when they can't afford like a bag of food until the payday, because most retired people get paid once a month. Um, if you had a medical problem come up, when I first started researching service dogs, it says that most people are one vet medical bill away from bankruptcy. And that hurts because a lot of military people that have service dogs, not all of them, are single. They live in smaller places. They're on fixed income, and it's hard to budget when you're not used to that. And that was my thing at first. Then I started thinking about, well, does Bean know this? Does she know that? Now we have to make our connection because she's been trained. She is a trained service dog. And I found that she didn't have everything needed to be a true service dog at that moment. For me, we have to get our connection. So there's got to be training too, because you're given a like a high-tech piece of equipment. Like I use the example of a Lamborghini. You go to the Lamborghini place and they show you how to back the car out of the parking spot, how to go forward, blinkers, windshield wiper, and said, hit the Autobahn, have a good life. So what? There's more to it. Dogs need medical. Their dental health is an important thing, just like with people, can cause heart problems and everything. So in order to maintain a good service dog, you have to have good information. And that's what I wanted to do, is put together the information in one place. Some states are a little more rigid, some aren't. That would be something that I would want in the on the webpage, so that if somebody said, hey, I'm going to, I don't know, Nebraska for the weekend, can my service dog do this? Because they can do it in Florida. I don't know if they can do it there. You hit up the website and you'd be like, nope, same thing. Or yeah, you can't take them to I don't know, a barber shop or something. It's a state law. Because you can't get any less than the ADA, but they can add more to
Okay,
it.
so the mission is really to inform folks about where they can get help for their service animals, and kind of just spread the awareness of what they're allowed to do with their animal and where they can take them,
Yeah,
and a resource where they can find out that type of information.
exactly. And there's a team of people that'll be researching and checking and updating and all this. This is kind of the goal. Hasn't happened yet. We're in the process of working on it. Of course, because you're
Yeah.
part of it.
So right now we're just trying to raise awareness, get people together, and even just to get to know some of these service animals and some of the amazing stories. As I've traveled around and talked to folks, I've listened to how their service animals have helped them, how they've saved their lives. And I know that you've done the same since you've had Bean. When you have a service animal, more and more people will flock to you and tell you stories. And when you listen to them, oftentimes they're really amazing and interesting stories. And our job is to validate these people, these animals, and introduce them so that we can give a better idea of some of the benefits of a service animal. So we talked about Saint, what that is, and the goals of that. You briefly touched on what a service animal is. We know that you can have mini horse or dog as
Yeah.
service animals. Can you just high level briefly run through the differences between a service animal, an emotional support animal, and a therapy animal?
Emotional support animals aren't really recognized as a service animal unless they can do like two different jobs. Let's say you got depression and you're diabetic or something, unless you get a PTSD or a SAD letter from your doctor to prove that you need it for the service dog reasons. Other than that, there is no such thing as a emotional support animal rules and regulations. It used to be that emotional support animals could go anywhere that a service animal can. Now it has to be a service animal to go on like a plane, places like that. Because an emotional support animal isn't recognized unless it's an official one through your psychiatric treatment. A limited mobility animal, a service animal of any kind, really helps. The what was the other one you said?
Therapy.
I'm lost the
Therapy.
word.
Yep.
Therapy dog. A therapy dog or a therapy animal. There's a lot of places you can go ride horses and stuff. They're therapy animals. They help a lot of people out too, but they're not your companion, and they don't stick with you 24 hours a day like a service dog does. It makes such a big difference into people's lives. I know a person's limited mobility. If they're shopping and let's say they drop their receipt, they drop their wallet, whatever, dog is trained to pick it up and hand it to them because they can't bend
They
down
pick
to
it up
do
and
it.
hand it to them dry. It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
They don't slobber
yeah,
on it.
it's really cool.
They don't even
What's that?
slobber on it.
No, there's a lady in Australia that I follow, and her little dog is the most amazing little dog I ever saw. He really does his job, and he truly looks like he enjoys his job. But you've got emotional support, service, and the other one, and they're all different. They all fall under different rules. Therapy animals are usually at one place. Service animals you take with you. They go everywhere you go. Emotional support pets go everywhere you go, but they don't have the rights that a service dog does. So when these people are like, it's my emotional support. Well, I'm sorry, it's not allowed here because it's not a
And who
service dog.
provides these guidelines for our audience?
Well, it's the Americans with Disabilities Act.
ADA.
And the ADA. And the ADA also only recognizes 4 certifications for service dogs. And they are not any of them that when you Google, I need an emotional support dog or I need a service dog type thing, and you get all these things come up, we'll give you a certificate and we'll do all this. It's fine and well, but it's not recognized by anybody. You're just wasting your money. You know, you need to have your service dog needs to be recognized by your doctor in order for it to be a true service dog for you.
Okay.
But there's really no real training program that says this is an official dog. It's not like when you go get your license for your car, you got to do tests and all that. The dog does all that, but you don't have to do anything but buy the vest right now.
And you in some places will ask for certification, but they're only allowed to ask you 2 questions in any business when you take your service animal. And you want to cover what those 2 questions are? And again, you might come in and people might ask you to perform something or to see a certificate, but you are protected by the ADA and HIPAA. So that literally there's 2 questions that a business is allowed to ask when you bring your animal in. And what are those?
The first one is that a service dog and does it provide for you what it's supposed to? Yeah. Has the dog been, well, they can ask you this, but this kind of puts you in a HIPAA thing too, is they can ask you, what is the dog trained, the duties the dog is trained to perform?
Yep.
Now, when you ask somebody that gets into a HIPAA question. Because if I start giving you more information, because you're wanting private information, like if I tell you it helps me with my psychiatric problems. I just told you a problem that you don't need to know.
Well, you can word that differently too. For example, with Stryker, he's a psychiatric service dog for PTSD. And my response to that question is he's trained to distract obstructive behavior. He sees that I'm anxious, he interrupts me, I stop it. And that's all I have to say.
That's all you have to say. You don't have to tell them anything else. Because the only two things that can be asked by law. Now, if they say, um, you need to leave or I'm going to call the cops, you tell them, please do, please call the cops. If you want, I'll dial it for you. And you just wait there. Just be patient and wait. Because as soon as they do that and the police show up, that is a HIPAA violation and they are in trouble. But don't get rude and nasty with them. Just say, okay,
And I think that's key. I think
I'll
that's
wait
really
right here.
key is we don't wanna create stigmas as handlers of service animals. So the way to kinda help that out is to set the example, be friendly, be polite, be
Yeah.
understanding, but know your rules and know the regulations because you can be asked to leave because of your animal if it's misbehaving. If your animal's trying to bite
Well,
someone or barking, things like
right. Yeah. If the dog is misbehaving and you can't get it under control, then it's got to go. If the dog is not housebroke, they can ask you to leave. Um, because a dog is supposed to be able to hold it until they tell you they can't, then you take it outside. So if it messes inside the building, they can
Yeah, it's
ask
your
you to go.
responsibility. Make sure
And that,
that animal, went to the restroom before you go in a
yep.
correct spot. Don't just do it on the sidewalk or right outside the front door, and pick up after them. But if you're responsible as a handler, these things shouldn't be a problem.
No, they shouldn't. But that's where you get into the fake service dog problem. Those are the dogs that don't have the discipline, they don't have the training. A service dog, especially for psychiatric, um, they have to pay attention to you. They're not paying attention to everything around them.
And
Being's a little
yeah,
undisciplined
I don't
on
wanna
that.
get too far into that,
But
but you
just
can tell. All I'll say about
yeah,
it, you can tell by
yeah,
the way the animal
yep.
acts, by the way that it watches and observes their handler.
It distracts a real service dog from being able to do their job
It
fully.
really can. Since you've mentioned Bean, did you want to do an introduction of her? Tell us a little bit about her story, how you got her, and then we'll get into a little bit of what she's done for you.
Okay, so Bean is a Boston Terrier. She was found roaming the streets of East San Antonio. And this lady, Cash, she works for a company called Warrior's Heart. It's a rehabilitation addiction place to help military first responders out. So she was rehabbing this dog. They don't know hardly anything about her. She's got a scratched cornea, so it's cloudy. She can see light and stuff, but she can't see anything else. She's got a nick in her bottom eyelid. She's a little fat. She snorts, she snores, she farts. But when my brother was going through this treatment, the dog didn't really care for anybody but liked him. So it became his service dog. And I picked on him, little stupid little tiny Boston Terrier. Well, he gave her to me as my service dog because one of the things I found out about my depression was I don't feel like I deserve a lot of stuff that I have. So I got her. And within, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks, I started feeling better. We started going places, little walks around the neighborhood, take her places. And one of the things that a guy told me, the fluffy poodle guy, told me would happen. People are going to start coming up to you and talking to you. It'll make you go from being a hermit to not being a hermit no more. You will have to talk to people. And so far, I've had, I believe it's 6 people that came up to me and talked to me about their dog, their service dog, why they don't bring their service dog with them at places because it's a hassle sometimes. And I just give them little tidbits of information. One lady was a diabetic. I said, you got to have that dog with you. Well, people pick it. They can't. So while this is all for service members, the information is for anybody. And Bean is part of that. She's changed my life in ways that I didn't expect. I'm happier. I feel better. I don't mind talking to people now. It's not always my favorite thing to do, but I do it. And she's become a godsend to me. I couldn't believe that a little dog would have such an impact on my life because I have two cats. They're my buddies. Dog is totally different. Totally. This is my first dog since I'm 15.
Nice, and I've actually
So
witnessed the difference and a lot of change in yourself. I remember when you first got Bean, you started to make some TikTok videos where you would take, her out, and I remember seeing you walk down the street, and I'm like, "This dog has got him out exercising." And then you started to tell me stories about how you are interacting with people, and I know you're not, a social butterfly, you know? You like to be
no,
left alone, and so when you started telling me this, I can see it for myself. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, this is helping him with his social anxiety." It's helping him physically with fitness just from going outside and walking around, and yeah, I noticed that with you almost immediately.
I haven't done a lot of the walking lately with her because it's snowed and it's cold. But we plan, I've got a whole bunch of stuff planned for this year for her, you know. So there I the biggest thing that this dog has done for me, I feel, has loosened me up, freed me up on some things that I was scared to do. Like I'm starting a business, you know. Those are words that have never come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it came out of my mouth, but as a half joke, you know. But this really all just came to me and just started flooding my head. I think probably a couple days into having her, when I started realizing this little dog's making a difference for me, just for a few days, you know. And then as the weeks have grown on, her and I have been getting closer and closer. It's quite a cool thing to feel as it's happening. But she's real good. She's a really good
She
little dog.
is, and we all love seeing your TikTok videos of her dressed up in her many outfits or hats.
The only thing that I got her was a raincoat. Then my mom sent stuff, said, she's a little girl. I'm like, Mom, I'm a kind of a big burly guy. I already have a little dog. That's enough of a problem right there sometimes. But I got her my mom got her this shimmery pink jacket. I don't give a damn. I put it on her. I take her everywhere. And people love it. And now I understand the dads that go out with their little girls and have tea parties and shit because it's your little girl. It's what you do. And she's my little girl.
Yeah, it's amazing.
She's sleeping now.
Yeah, and she's fun to listen to. She kinda purrs a little bit. I've been on the phone with Friz many times when I can hear this in the back. It's Bean sleeping, I think, on him.
Yep, she's snoring. Well, after she's been like really relaxed sleeping, she's real quiet. But when she's first sleeping, she's, oh my God, that little girl can
We
snore.
actually covered quite a lot there, and I'll recap it, um, because I
I hope it
it
made
really
sense.
did. For me, it made a lot of sense. Hey, and, like, when I first got Stryker, uh, it was during COVID, and so I was working in IT management. I was working from home at the time, so I was able to spend all my time with Stryker, working with him, and I had another, trained animal at the time, and that kinda helped me along with it, but, um, I started training with him, and then part of that training is social interaction, so that they are used to people. Because I lived way out in the sticks in the woods where there wasn't people, there wasn't traffic, none of that, so I had to go into town, um, introduce him to a lot of people, and then I started to train him as a hiking dog, as a trail dog, because I would go on all these hikes, so he got really good with guide left, guide right commands, directional commands. And along the way, I love to play disc golf. I would take my frisbee out to these places I'd hike, and we'd find an open area, and I'd launch these discs, and people would see Striker and always come and talk to me. And then we started traveling the country, um, coast to coast, going and visit with veterans, getting their stories out. And along the way, we stop at a service area, throw the frisbee, and striker draws attention, and people come and talk to me. Well, like you, I don't want people necessarily to see me, but when it's about the dog, they're not looking at me, they're staring at him, and he's so cool. I'm like, "Man, this dog is so cool," that it kinda gets the focus off of me a little bit, and it makes it easier for me to talk. And and
Oh
like
yeah.
you said, when you've got an animal, you might be just walking down the street with no animal, and people walk right by you, but if you've got a dog, most of the time, they're gonna say something. With Striker, it's like, "Oh, what a beautiful dog," or "Look at those eyes," or "Can I pet him?" And in my case, I break the rules on that one. I know Striker's friendly and he loves attention, so I always say yes, but I am grateful that they ask. But my point is, she
Yeah.
he really made me feel like now the attention's not all on me. People aren't just looking at me, checking me out. They're looking at him. They don't care about me. They wanna know about more about the animal, and I love talking about him because I love him, and he's so freaking cool. I mean, we went to
Yeah.
the military influencer conference, and there was thousands of people in that hotel, and for me, that's one of my triggers, and so I'm really, anxious the whole time, but I've got him. He did amazing. The only thing we had to work on there was the escalators, but what I really enjoyed was, especially at that conference, there were only, I think, 4 other folks, that had their service animals, and that's where I met Daniel, the fluffy poodle guy. Amazing, both him and poodle,
Yeah.
but I
He's
realized
awesome.
while I was there, I would use Stryker as an excuse to get away sometimes from the people, from the anxiety, and I would just go outside and let him potty, and then they had a giant football stadium right there and a practice field, so I went out there with a Frisbee, and I would be throwing the disc, and what I realized is the people at the building were all out there watching and recording, and he was like the talk of the conference at one point because he's so cool, and that made me feel good because 'cause they're like, "Who the hell are you?" I'm like, "I'm with him," but it made me, grateful and really proud of him, and it got the conversation started, so a lot of folks really genuinely wanted to know more about him, but more specifically service animals, and that's when I realized there really just isn't a lot of information out there on them. Like you said, you can get one,
Exactly.
and now what? Well, now you've got to develop that relationship. Now you've got to continue that training. Now you've got to take care of this animal, and love it and support it. And that means sometimes we have doctor bills, sometimes that means changing of foods, and that alone can get quite expensive, especially if you didn't budget for it. But then when you get into it, you need your vest, they need toys. Um, it does really add up, and there's not a lot of resources out there, not easy to find anyways. S
Right. And the rules that are out there, especially like by the ADA, they're fairly common sense type rules. If you read over them and you go down through them, like the service dog, they fall under Title One and Title Two of the Service Dog Acts, and one of them has to do. I think Title Two is about the service dog being allowed to be in public places like malls and barber shops and whatever, restaurants, whatever. And Title One has to do with like hotel accommodations, hotels, renting properties, and things like that. You know, but if you don't know what those titles are, you don't know your rights because you're not told that when you get your dog. These are things you got to look up that I've found anyway. And it's interesting that somebody hasn't done this. The only thing people are doing is starting up service dog, emotional support dog websites to give you a certificate, their certificate. It really doesn't mean nothing. You've spent hundreds of dollars through a company. You might have got training to get your dog under control and what, but that's all it is. You're just paying for training because certificate and all that's
Yeah,
nothing.
so future episodes, we will touch on some of that, some training tips, more laws. We'll talk about advocacy
Yeah.
and so much more, such as where to get support, some websites. But Friz, to be honest with you, I'm really excited to get to know these service animals because people are
You
awesome,
know,
but We
I'm
all
jealous of you because you're good at it.
people are awesome, but we all love animals, and thank you. But Bean sleeping today, you said?
Bean, 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 come here. Come here. Oh, she's sleep,
If
sleep.
we can get a look
Come
at
here.
her. We got Striker here
Come
stretching
here,
out.
baby.
Oh, he heard
Let
his
me get her.
name. Oh, there she is.
There's
There's the little
Bean.
snore machine, the little purr dog.
Say hi,
Hi,
Bean.
Bean.
Yeah. Yeah. She's my baby. Oh, you got what did you eat? Good God.
Yeah, we can hear her
We
snort.
ain't got no dumpsters around here.
I can hear her snorting a little bit.
Oh yeah, she does. It's all the pugs and Boston Terriers and all them because of their
Yeah,
this
they got
area right here. It's so
dubs.
short. Yeah, it's called bronchial. I forget what it is. All right, baby, get down. And it causes them to do that. But she snorts and snores but she's funny as hell because she's like a little person.
Yeah, she's adorable, and she does funny stuff. I love seeing she doesn't seem to care for the cold either. It looks like she goes out and right back in, and then she goes in front of the fireplace, and she'll sit there. Such personality.
So every morning since it's got cold and we've been here, we get up real early, 5:30 or so. We're usually down here. And I turn on the fireplace because it's a gas fireplace. She goes out to pee. She comes right back in and she runs right to the fireplace, sits down. Well, this morning it was real cold. She ran right to the fire. She ran to the fireplace. I sat in my chair and she looked at me because I usually sit with her. She turned around, she crawled, jumped right up in the chair and laid down with me. And she laid there for, I don't know, a good 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's an important part of my life, and it really makes me feel good when I do something good for her because she brings me so much contentness in my life.
I think that
She brings a little bit of peace to it that I normally
and they
don't
make
have.
us feel that love, which I think is so important, which helps, like for me specifically to not feel alone sometimes when I feel alone. Uh, he does this a
Yeah.
lot with me, or he'll lay down next to me and put his paws on me and just remind me. And sometimes that's all I need to get out of a funk or to get out of an obtrusive thought, And that's one of the biggest reasons I want to get this information out there and tell these stories so that people can look into it for themselves and realize that there's options out there and these animals really do a lot. And so often we don't even
Yeah.
talk about the things that they do behind the scenes. Like being on the road now, 150,000 plus miles with Stryker, camping out, overlanding, micro camping, you name it. We've been in a lot of situations. And one of the things that Stryker is trained to do is what I call it's watch me. And he'll watch my back, he'll watch my surroundings, and he'll alert me if something's coming in that I need to be aware of. Like if there's an intruder in our campsite, which we've encountered before. It's really happened, and he really did his job, and he jumped up to protect me and let me know. And what that allows me to do is relax. Sometimes that just allows me to sleep because I know he's there. But if I'm out
Yeah.
camping or by a fire, if I want to be able to enjoy it, I've got to get my mind off of the alert, off of the where's the threat, blah, blah, blah. And with Stryker there, I know that he's going to give me enough time to let me know if something's happening to engage my plan. And so because I have him there to alert me, I don't have to be on the alert. I can kind of turn that off and enjoy myself a little bit more because I know that he's going to do his job. He's demonstrated that for me. And we don't hear those stories a lot of times. Like I was out camping last winter in a very secluded area. There was myself and one other campsite out in this spot. It was a free camping area, very primitive. And they were pretty wild over there. I think they might have been partying or cooking something. And I had my headphones in, my earbuds in, and I was just chilling by my fire to stay warm. So I didn't hear anything there, noise canceling headphones. So I hear Stryker going off and I look over and there's this dude running towards my camp. And I take my earbuds out and he's like, "You better grab that fucking dog." And I'm like, "Whoa," Stryker's going up and just stopped him right there. And I realized like this dude was just he wanted me to leave because they were doing illegal things, and he was coming over to get me, and Stryker jumped up and stopped him. I'm like, "You might wanna go," and long story short, he ended up leaving that night, but had Stryker not been there, I don't know what woulda happened. I wouldn't have even heard the guy coming. I don't know if I would have seen him coming because it was coming from this angle, and it really made me proud, and ever since then, I haven't taken I don't know if I've taken a hiking or camping trip without bringing him along with me. It's just that serious for me, and it really helps that much.
I think that one thing that I feel better about, like you said, is sleeping. My sleep has improved, I believe, since I've had her, because being an engineer in the military, in the Navy, I can hear the different pitch of the engines and stuff on the ship. And when something doesn't sound right, up, get dressed, you head down to the engine room because something's wrong. And I'm always on that kind of a edge all night for years. I don't know if I'll ever get rid of that. But since I've had Bean, I tend to sleep all night long now. That's something I did notice. Because I think it's because she takes away that, like you said, um, I can let down my guard because she will hear it before I do. And she'd let me know. And if nothing's going to happen, she won't have to let me know nothing. I don't honestly think she'd be able to protect me like Stryker does you, because she could probably be kicked like a football. But she would try because she's a tough little girl.
Yep, and she loves you, and I think that's the most important part is that relationship that you build, that time that you put in to build and devise those relationships.
You have to. They're like any other relationship in your life. You have to work at it. If you don't work at a relationship, it's not going to
That's
work.
right.
And you got to have that connection. Just because you think you want a Belgian Malinois as a dog, it might not fit you for what you need in a service dog. And then you might be like our friend Daniel, the fluffy poodle guy. He didn't think a poodle was going to be the dog, but the dog liked him. They had that connection, and now he has the fluffy poodle guy. I'm the little short, fat bean guy.
Yeah, I'm the cool looking, high flying striker dog handler kinda guy.
Stryker's a
He's so
cool
much
dog,
cooler than
dude.
I am. I
Stryker's
feel like,
cool.
I'm
And
lucky, you know? He's
and
cool.
I know you get upset when people go, "Is that a Australian Shepherd?" It's a Merle with two different color eyes. It looks like an Australian Shepherd, but he's a beautiful dog.
Border
Beautiful dog.
collie, 100%, tricolor blue merle,
Yep.
and he's got the freaking eyes. We actually have another border collie out here named Spyro who has the eyes, except for his right eye is
Really?
blue and his left eye is brown, where Striker's vice versa, and Spyro's just black and white. He's just a love dog. He wasn't one that I was able to train as a service animal.
Some
He
dogs
just
can.
he did Yeah,
Some
he didn't
dogs
have
can.
it. He's great about love, but he's not great about tasks, where Striker's so task focused. He's like, "Put me to work, or I'm gonna do something." So anyways, I don't wanna get too caught up in that. I will say that Saint has, started devising a website, so give us at least a month on that, maybe a little bit more, but in the meantime, I would love to field some questions. I know that the service animal talk always always gets the gears going, so if you do have any questions, please just put it in the comments of this video, and we will do our best to do some research or find some guests. If you do know of anyone that has a service animal with an amazing story, we like dogs more than people most of the time. We would love to field them out and potentially have them on the show to tell their animal story because who doesn't love dogs, you know? So,
Yeah. Any comment, question, concern, anything that's happened to you negative, put it in the comments. Let us know so we can see what's going on out there outside of our bubble.
can't wait to get the website up. In the meantime, if you do want to support the mission to keep it going, you can check us out, 420 Chief. Um, that's what I do on the side. Friz, much love to you, brother. Much love to B. Always love seeing
Thank
her
you.
face. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another episode, and who knows, we may even have a special guest. So please, if you know anyone, feel free to comment or reach out to myself. And you can find Friz on TikTok. He did start a Saint account. And how do we find you on TikTok, Friz? Do I need to look?
It's Saint S period A period I period N period T period.
That's how we search it. Saint with all periods.
I think that's all
Okay.
it is. Yeah, it's all capital.
Awesome.
And it's got a picture of a little short, fat Boston Terrier on it. So it's easy to find on there. And I think in there I've got links to the YouTube page
Okay.
also. So they can click on that and they can go over to Saint. And then we're also on, was that
fan base.
Fan base, that's it. On fan base. But there it's no periods, it's Saint capitalized, and then it's service animal, on and on all the way to team for that, because I don't know if fan
Okay.
base is weird.
Well, next time I will live stream this to my YouTube channel. I will be creating a playlist to move it to called Saint, and hopefully we will get this streaming as well on the Saint YouTube channel. And then once the website has stood up, I will make sure that we get the episodes streamed and uploaded to there. So if you have any
Right.
questions,
Sounds good.
please feel free to leave them in the comments, because again, who doesn't love dogs? So
Dogs. I mean, you think about it. What do you think about when you think about America? Think of a little boy and his dog. Apple
well,
pie,
like
Chevrolet,
true story
firework.
from when I worked the corporate world. We had Bring Your Dog to Work Day once a year when I started, and then they started doing it 2 times a year. And I went down, I was talking to the HR lady about it one day, taking my form in, and she goes, "Do you know we have better participation on Bring Your Dog to Work Day than we do Bring Your Child to Work Day, and better feedback?" She's like, "By a landslide."
I 100% would agree with that. I would 100% agree with that.
All right. Well, everybody. Oh, go ahead.
You can take your dog. Like I said, you can take it anywhere. If you don't, and if somebody tells you can't, let us know and we'll find out about it to make sure. But check your local and state laws along with the ADA, because some of them are a little bit different. But check them if you have a question. Check
I
with
think one of the
them.
biggest things, like I said earlier, is you've got to lead by change. You've got to demonstrate the example. So appropriate responses has been one of the hardest things for me when people will challenge me about bringing my animal in. And it took me actually a couple of years of practice to get it down to where I didn't sound like a complete a-hole, because I don't want to be a part of that stigma where, oh, these service animal people are assholes. We have to leave them alone. We can't talk to them. I don't want to be that. So, if you need help crafting an appropriate response, if you're having trouble, please also feel free to reach out, and that's something that we can help out with, because it is important.
Yeah, I'm working on something for everybody to carry so they can just hand it to people and say, look, like a card, like a fold up business card. I have a few little information on it. Something that I'm working on, just
Yeah.
doodling on it. I'm going to see if I can get it going. And people can just hand them to somebody. If you're not comfortable talking, you can hand it to somebody and they'll open it up to be business card side, open up, and it'll just have a few little
And I
things
plan
in
to
it
throw that up on the
to
website for
help people.
free so you can print it out and just
Yeah,
keep it with you if you need it.
right.
So once that site's up, again, give me a good month on that. I'm not a web designer. It's the thing I love the least amount, but always one of those things that's got to get done so that we can provide you with value. But until next time, we'll be live again 2 weeks from today, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern Time for Saint Show.
Thank you all for showing up. Thanks for having me.